Okay.
I'm Jennifer.
Okay. Pardon me?
Hang on.
Just give me a break. It is now 4 o'clock. I'll call the meeting of the Beaufort County Board of Education Finance Committee to order. April 6th at 4 p.m. We are in conference room E, and we are also remote hybrid streaming this meeting on Zoom. Request for public comments will be accepted between 3 and 3:30 by sending an email to Robin Christenberry. Committee members present, myself, Mr. Earl Campbell, and Miss Elizabeth Hay. And we have another board member, Ms. Cody Gordon, here with us. I see no other board members here. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next order of business is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Campbell. Ms. Hay, would you second that?
Yes, I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Are there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nothing heard. Motion passes unanimously. Do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
That's a shame. Next item on the agenda, approval of the March 15th, 2023 minutes. Mr. Campbell has made a motion to approve the agenda or to approve the minutes. Ms. Hay, would you
I
like to?
second.
Second?
Yes.
Motion's been moved, seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Hey, I.
Motion passes unanimously. The first item is the monthly board monthly Board of Education report. And I have it marked up here someplace. Okay. Yeah, the only thing I noticed on the report is on the last page, page 2 of 2. Basically, Ms. Hay, what I do is I go down and look at the percentage used of the budget. And since we are approaching 3/4 of the year done, I look for anything over 75%. And we got our out-of-state travel with 250%, but that was kind of a quick addition to the budget. We have out-of-state travel for board member number 9, District 9 at 86%. So we have to kind of watch out for that. Frankly, overall, Ms. Hay, I don't have a problem with travel. I look at the final total out-of-state and total travel budget, and I see that we're at 23.3% and 15.1%. So if one board member doesn't use it, or 2 board members doesn't use it, and other board members use more, we just shift from those that don't use it to those that need to use it. Same with the board meeting stipend, and we're at 45.5%. So we're well under budget for stipends. The question I had Ms. Crosby is library books and materials. We're at 135%. Is that for the?
Those are for the books that we bought for the new board members.
Okay,
And then so that I'll transfer at the end to
Okay.
cover that. But
okay.
yeah, those are the new coherent governance books. and
Coherent
stuff.
government books.
Books that
Okay,
I,
I just, these aren't the books that are being looked at for the band.
no, oh, I did in the first go round. I
Okay.
did buy those books too.
Okay, so
But they're still the very first
for one round.
for one round
Okay.
only.
So
Right.
there are financial resource books that I think of GFOA,
Right.
there are coherent governance books. And the remainder appear to be the banning, book banning.
Right. Okay. And lastly, I see we're at 111% spent on unprepared food, so no more candy bars.
No more candy.
No more candy bars. Okay.
Transfer there.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the out-of-state travel? What is the reason? Or do we know? I'm just trying to understand why we would be covering out-of-state travel.
The out-of-state travel is, we had two board members that attended national conference. Earl Campbell attended the
Got
National School Boards Association Conference in Orlando, and William Smith attended the, I can't say the acronym, but it was a conference, it's the consortium conference that the School Boards Association is a part of now, the South Carolina. He attended that in Tampa. So those were the two national conferences
Nice.
for out of state.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this agenda item? Hearing none, we move to the next agenda. Oh, thank you. Next agenda item, which is the monthly $100,000 reports, as well as there's an executive piece, and it's all of 113 pages. And I scanned them all, and I had some questions, but I'm going to ask fellow committee members if they have any questions from the 113-page report or the 3-page executive summary. Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions?
No, I was just gonna ask about how great is the only telephone service that you have?
Margaret.
Hargray is our internet service provider. Oh, one of them. We do have a state provider that provides some level of service as well. I can't recall the name of it. We knew it last week when we had internet outage, so. But they're one of our internet service providers. They provide a network.
So we don't have no contract with AT&T.
No, we have our cell phone services through Verizon, but AT&T is not one of our vendors.
Well, the reason I asked that is because they have a program where they help districts where students don't have access to internet. So I bought one of their cars.
I'll take a look at it. We still do have our MiFi hotspots that through Verizon that are paid for with ESSER funds. And we're not utilizing all of those currently, so we're looking to scale back the ones that aren't being regularly used to save some of the ESSER funds and reallocate them to other resources that need additional funding to continue those programs. But we aren't currently working with AT&T, but we'll be happy to look into that.
Okay.
Ms. Hay, do you have any comments, questions?
I do not at this time.
I have.
I'm really trying to learn, so I'm
Right,
just
understand.
more soaking
Yeah.
everything up.
It's a lot. But I have a few questions, please.
Which one are you on, the
I'm
consolidated?
on the consolidated one,
Okay.
page 3. Page 3, the consolidated one, Port Royal Elementary, Ajax Building Company got a credit for $25,000. I was in that school and I hope that I saw some places that hadn't been painted, and I wondered why we're giving them, or why they gave us back money. That may be something I should ask at the operations committee.
Yeah.
And Robert's on as well.
Oh,
Oh, Robert,
Robert is on.
Robert, do you know why we gave back Ajax Building Company $25,727.82?
they gave that.
So it's not us giving back, they're giving back to us. That means that project is complete. And that's the funds that were left and they're returning them to the contingency pot. In other words, that project's done. They don't need that money. It's coming back.
Okay, then the painting I saw a month ago must have been something aberration. I'll have to ask the principal when I go back about that happening. Okay. And on the full report, I have some questions. And let's see. Go to page 8, 26. And that is Academy for Career Excellence got a series of money turned back in from the Ascents Corporation total.
Okay, so I think the Ascentus is actually a total from the previous, from the, it's actually our Nova Time system, which is our time clock system. So
Okay.
Ascentus Corporation begins, and in bold there is just the total of that $100,000. So right below that begins Beaufort Jasper Academy for Career Excellence. Every invoice that we have on a monthly basis has a grand total, which is 1/12 of our annual $1.8 million allocation to ACE.
Right,
So that amount is $151,000
right,
monthly.
right.
From that, every single month, we have deductions that come from that.
Mhm.
And they are for the maintenance supplies that Beaufort County School District pays, and they have to reimburse us. It is for maintenance charges for the labor services that they're providing. It is for custodial services. It is for technology services that we provide. We pay the employee that works there 3 days a week, is on our payroll. So it's a series of charges. I can't recall them all off the top of my head.
Okay,
Substitute teachers that we compensate from our contract,
right,
we're deducting from that bill as well. So these are regular monthly deductions of things
Okay.
that Beaufort County School District advances and pays. And we deduct and have ACE reimburse us back for those services.
okay. That makes sense. On page 9 of 26. Item 274. Coastal Security Services for the district office. Obviously, we didn't pay for it. We got the money back for that. What is it?
So when we contracted with Coastal Security, they requested a deposit so that they could suit their security guard. So we gave a $40,000 deposit, and they are reimbursing us monthly to return that deposited money. For
Okay,
that was to get their handguns, their security
Okay.
vests, et cetera.
that makes sense. I have no other issues on the $100,000 report. Is there any, Ms. Gordon, do you have any issues about the report?
No, I do not.
Okay, and Mr. Smith is on. Mr. Smith, do you have any issues about this report?
I was going to ask you to repeat. What did she say about the money for the security company again?
So that was where we provided resources. We fronted the security company a deposit of resources so that they could outfit the security guards for our schools with the weapons, the safety vest, et cetera. And they are repaying us that deposit on a monthly basis with a credit to our the charges.
You have any other questions, Mr. Smith?
Not this time, but, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to the transparency report. That's the one that's 113 pages.
Yeah,
That's
And do you have any issues on that?
you know, I went through it, I don't have any issue.
Okay. Ms. Hay, I don't know, this is very difficult to try to go through 113 pages on this.
Yes.
I only had one comment, a question about it. When is the last time we had competitive bids for our long distance and local telephone service?
A long time.
That's what I figured.
Most of the contracts are state, competitively bid, and we've gone off the state contract, especially for, WAN. Or, excuse me, long distance, but the WAN we've done, and if you give me just 1 second, I can tell you the last time it was bid.
And for those in the audience, this is Kaylee Yinger, our procurement coordinator. And Jennifer Hamlin was previous speaker, director of procurement and budget.
For the wide area network solution, or WAN,
Plan.
we went out to bid for it in 2018, which means it looks like we may have one more year. I think at the end of this year, and then we'll be going out for bid again, or have the option to extend with the superintendent.
How about long distance services?
Speak up on that again. For those of you on that end, you'll have to speak up a little.
Oh, I'm sorry, the speakers up there. For long distance services. Long distance was 2012, and we've been operating off the state contract since then.
It's a state contract.
Yes,
Okay. And have we ever explored the option of going out for a competitive bid for that?
it's already been competitively bid through the state, and we
Through the
operate the state. State contracts are all competitively bid, and their procurement code aligns with ours.
Okay.
So if we were to competitively bid, we'd be going through the same process twice, but if it's the will of the board and the finance department, we're more than happy to do.
In a previous job, I found out that a state contract was somewhat inflated. And when we went out on our own and asked for bids, we got a better price.
We have done that as well. We actually do have a few contracts that are separate from the states because of the financing companies that the state has chosen to use, kind of conflicted with what we used in the past. And so like for the MFP contract for copiers, the multi-function printers, we do not use the state's contract. We use our own. And our furniture contract, we do not use the states. It's very cumbersome because they are providing for agencies, but the procurement office does those contracts prior to us utilizing them to make sure that they are the best benefit for Beaufort County. And if not, then we exercise that option to go after that.
Well, you brought up another point, and that's the printer contract.
Yes.
And you say we're not following the state contract. When's the last time we got a competitive bid? And I hope that we have but one contract.
We do. Our current contract is the Sharp, and we went out for bid with them in the summer of 2022. So that was just recently, and before that it was 2016, I believe. So we've been keeping it up on about a five-year term,
Okay,
which is consistent with our year.
thank you very much. Very helpful. Any other questions about the 113-page transparency report? Ms. Gordon? No. And Mr. Smith?
I don't have a question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is one of my favorites, and that's the ESSER update.
All right, I was just looking at the materials, we may have some cutting off on the. Here it's the thing.
Yeah, we didn't get, I didn't get the.
I'm right, but it's a meeting now, so. Which page is it?
This is not the graph.
Here.
Oh,
Have a whole other folder.
It's Mr. Ben. They'll handle these. Copy, and Ms. Gordon.
Right there, right.
And if you could just, it's on for now. Yeah. Okay. Okay, who's going to talk about that?
Well.
Good.
Ms. Matson unfortunately has been ill today, so she is not with us, but in spirit, she is, and she is the one who does all the hard work behind this. So I'm just reporting out to you today. So we are in good shape as usual with the ESSER funds. These are the elementary, secondary schools emergency relief funds. We've received 3 grants, ESSER, as we refer to as ESSER 1, 2, and 3. Again, ESSER 1 was due and to expended those funds. I think those were, well, I'm not going to guess at the dollar amounts, but I think that one was in the neighborhood of $5 million or so. ESSER 2 is coming up to expire in September of 2023. And as you can see, we're 96% spent there. We do have some activities that we have budgeted out and planned for them to spend through. We're trying to wrap things up as of June so that we make sure we're able to get all the paperwork together, all claim our funds and that sort of thing. And then ESSER 3, we are now expending almost fully in that category instead of spreading between multiple funding sources. And we have 51% remaining to expend, or $25 million. We have spent about $25 million over the last per year for the last 3 years. So we do expect to, it does sound like a lofty amount of money, it is, but we do have budgeted and projected we will spend every penny of that. As in the left quadrant, left bottom quadrant, the graphic talking about the projections by quarter, the green line shows our projected cash balance as we near to the first quarter of 2025, which would be the July through September timeframe. So you can see that green line goes down to 0. That's the projected amount that we see remaining in the budget at that time. So the blue line is just showing the activity or the spending by quarter, and it goes a little up, a little down, depending on what we're purchasing. In the fourth quarter of 23, we experienced a large purchase for the payment for the retention bonuses, the $2,000 retention bonuses that were paid to all employees at that time. So as you can see, depending on what the activities are, we have a little fluctuation from quarter to quarter, and do expect to expend all of those by the remaining a little less than 18 more months, not 19 months to the grant remaining. So total expenditures for the month of March was $1 million, but again, it does fluctuate from month to month. Largest areas of spending are both in ESSER 2 or master teachers, tutoring, childcare, sanitation, instructional coaches, and in ESSER 3, instructional materials, after school community-based activities, and extended learning, school-based activities. That would be tutoring, for example, and then professional development. And we did outfit a number of our classrooms, particularly in the early grade levels, with new classroom rugs. And if you were to go in a pre-K or kindergarten classroom, you would see the need for that. And so we do want, and especially during COVID, we want to clean, materials for our students to sit and play on and learn on and that sort of thing. So anyway, so that it concludes that update, or as far as the dashboard. But I do want to mention something very positive. We had a State Department monitoring visit last week. I don't recall the day. They're all running together at this point. We had 2 officials from the State Department who are former teachers or administrators. We had a room full of people here that were from instruction, student services. We had our lead social workers, our aftercare, and we provided a presentation. The team provided a presentation of several of the activities that were of particular interest to the State Department officials. We had videos of the aftercare enrichment program, where the locations were, how we selected the locations, and how successful they've been, and what videos of the students learning, and talking about sustaining the program. We also had a presentation about mental health. We had one about virtual learning from our virtual learning coordinator for the school district. There were a few other programs I don't recall at the moment, but it was an amazing early childhood. We had the traveling preschool bus here on site. They took them on a field trip through the site. As we're walking out the door, there are 4-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old children walking down the hallway into the early childhood center, being screened, and then making their way out to the preschool bus. The staff or the State Department representatives were able to see all of that firsthand. And then when they finished after lunch, they took site visits to, I believe it was Mount Carmel, and another site somewhere, I want to say in the Beaufort or St. Helena area, one of the other sites. So they were able to see the aftercare programs firsthand of what they were doing there. Very impressed, very, very impressed by the programs that we're offering. They love the preschool bus. They weren't seeing that anywhere else throughout the school districts they were monitoring. And they said that Beaufort could probably put on the entire ESSER programming at the state level and do it and demonstrate what we're doing to everyone. It was such a successful day. They were just really moved by the things that we're doing. So very good report from them. And I expect that we will get a letter, or at least from the state level, commending our staff for such a good job. And we're very excited about the work that we're doing there.
That's it. Do you have anything else?
That's all.
Any questions, Mr. Campbell? Ms. Hay, do you have any questions?
I don't, but is that report she was just referring to something we could add to a points of celebration for a future board meeting?
Yes, if we receive a report back from the State Department, we will definitely list it as a points of celebration. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You might consider showing a clip of what you presented to them, to the full board.
Right. So the meeting we held was about 3 or 4 hours long that morning, but there was a request at Tuesday's board meeting for information about the after school program. So perhaps we can start there and at least give information about that program. And then if we want to see some other information, then we can provide that.
Great.
Mhm.
Ms. Gordon, do you have any comments or questions?
I'm impressed. And thank you guys for the hard work that you do. This is ultimately closer here coming from the state. Great job.
Mr. Smith, do you have any comments or questions?
No, not this time. I don't. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We're ready to move on. The next item on the agenda is grant authorization for the 23-24 school year.
So this item comes out of the Special Revenue Office led by Denise Matson. And every year, this is a standard application that we bring forward or motion that we are requesting from the board to authorize the superintendent or his designee to apply for, sign, submit, and administer federal, state, local, and other foundation grant applications and cooperative agreements for the and in this case for the 23-24 school year. So this is a standard practice for us. Administrative Rule OS 7 does require the board to annually approve a resolution. And many of our federal and state documents require us to have some this documentation on hand. So it's just sort of an annual formality that we go through. We just request a motion and an acceptance of this.
Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions or comments? Ms. Hague, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Okay, Ms. Gordon,
I do not think it's.
Mr. Smith,
No, I do not.
okay, do I hear a motion to recommend approval of the,
Into the full board.
to the full board? Recommend approval to the full board
That's the motion from last year.
to authorize the superintendent or his designee to apply for, sign, submit, and administer state, federal, state, local, and foundation grant applications and cooperative agreements for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
That motion has been made by Mr. Mr. Campbell made the motion. And Ms. Haywood, you second the motion?
Yes, I second.
Right, any discussion? Hearing none,
This is 22, 23, 24.
23, 24.
Yes, sir.
Not 22. Oh, I see, that was supposed to be crossed.
Sorry, I should have crossed that one.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, thank you. All opposed? Nothing heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Now we move to the minority. Let's see. Minority Business Enterprise Report. Yes, Crosby.
Yes, sir. I am going to turn this presentation over fully to, and she doesn't know it yet, but now she does. Ms. Kayla Yinger, procurement coordinator.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. You'll have in front of you the semi-annual report from the first half of FY 23, which is from July 1, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. And this is a summary, a semi-annual summary of quarterly reports as well. I'll give you a minute to review. It's a lot to take in. So as you can see, we reference OE 6.2. And then we give you the reporting period and the data with it, the funds be extended, which is based off a 6 month figure of our controllable budget. This is the first report where our goal has decreased from 20% to 10% based on the new procurement code. So for the first half of FY 23, total dollars expended were certified with $668,981.78, which is about 0.5% of the controllable budget. The total dollars expended to awards for non-certified minority women business enterprises was $6,901,044.71, which is about 5.11% of the controllable budget. So the total dollars expended for awards to all minority women business enterprises were $7,570,026.49, which was 5.61% of the controllable budget. And we ended up having 10 solicitations out. 2 of those bids were received from certified minority women business enterprise. In section 3, we break down the actual dollars paid to certified minority women business enterprise from a category of minority and a category for women. And on the next page is a visual of the actual cost and versus our goal, our actual spent versus our goal. As you can see in the previous years from 2016 to the first half of 2022, our goal was at 20%. When our new fiscal year began, our goal changed to 10%. But our progress has been not consistent throughout the years. And that is due to mostly construction projects. When we have major construction projects going on, especially in the beginning phases, that's when the most money is spent. But again, we're still doing a conscious effort to acquire more minority and women-owned businesses. We still have a place on our website for working with the district that is dedicated strictly to vendors, including a vendor handbook. That we update. We place ads with local newspapers and radio semi-annually with information of proposed future projects. In the spring of 2022, the district scheduled a minority vendor fair with contractors. And we also have considerable outreach with CDRE Heary and BCSD by posting opportunities to the BCSD website. In addition to what people don't realize is the new procurement code only requires that we advertise with South Carolina business opportunities. Beaufort County School District chooses to advertise nationwide. So through our vendor registry, local newspapers, Chamber of Commerce's, and then immediately following that is a report of our sole source in our emergency procurement for the first half of the year, which you can see is considerably smaller since our thresholds have changed with the new procurement code as well.
Mr. Campbell, you've been on this board for 30 years. You have been a former contractor. We have new board members. Could you kind of give a little history and your view of this report and our performance over the years?
I think that we have done a better job. We haven't gotten to where some of the contractors want us to. And I think the reason for that is that many, especially subcontractors, they don't want to go into details. They feel that if they give you too much information, you get too much involved in their business. So, but it's had to improve society quite a bit. So I don't have no complaints.
Okay. Ms. Hay, do you have any questions or comments?
No, again, just soaking in information. Thank you.
Ms. Gordon, do you have any questions or comments?
Two, you say you went from 20% to 10%?
Yes.
Why did you decrease?
The new procurement code that we adopted at the beginning of the fiscal year was the new model code that was written by the state for school districts. If we didn't adopt the code, we would no longer be substantially similar to the state, which means we would have lost a lot of the benefits of not aligning with state and federal regulations. So we were forced, but wish I could choose a better word, we really didn't have much of a choice to adopt that code, and they put a max of 10%. So.
And number two, I appreciate the information, I'm looking at it. But I am still concerned that of the numbers, the minorities who actually have contracts with the school district. And I would like to see that increase, and I know what you're saying, it is better than we've ever done, but it's still not good enough.
I would like to point out that the total numbers expended for our non-certified minority women business, it always seems to be considerably higher than our certified. And reason being, and I believe that we've spoken about this in previous meetings, trying to find certified minority businesses or women-owned businesses in this area is really hard because we're kind of at the trifecta of Savannah, Columbia, and Charleston. Savannah contractors that are minority aren't considered certified because you have to be certified in South Carolina, and we're so close to the border. And then if you're certified in Charleston or you're certified in Columbia, there's so much work to be done up there that it just seems kind of counterproductive for them to come south. So where we derive majority of our certified or our non-certified is our subcontractors through our big companies. So our Thompson Turners, our MB Cons, our JE Dunns, or even our architects or HES facilities or ABM, any of our large contracts that we have, we require them to report to us what funds they are expending to minority women business on our behalf through the purchase of supplies or services or anything else. So, and we encourage that as well as much as we can. It's just we're kind of in geography has not been in our favor for minority women business to be certified.
Thank you.
The other thing is that you have any contract with any state agency, you have to have workers' comp.
Yeah.
And workers' comp insurance is very expensive. So that's why you find a lot of folks don't. Well, it doesn't matter, whether it's a family. It's still required to have, so that's what it is, folks don't. Folks too much.
Mr. Smith, do you have any comments or questions?
I don't have any questions.
Lastly, for the new board members, they also have to be licensed. And to get a license in Beaufort County, you have a number of things you have to be able to provide proof of, bonding. You have to have a lot of certifications to be that. It is a problem. And there are many people that will do the work. But the prime contractor cannot hire them because if they get a job inspection, which they do, and they come out and find people that are not bonded, not insured, and so on, the prime contractor will get in a heck of a lot of trouble and potentially lose their license. And so that's a real issue. Secondly, we have done this now, I think, 3 times since I've been here. We've had job fairs where we have big contracts about to be let, and we've selected the prime contractor. We've had the prime contractor come in to our media center, and we've also done it at the Black Chamber of Commerce, come in and say, everybody who's looking for work, every company, come in, we're ready to give you the work. The prime contractor wants to have local people, because what we have in our contracts right now, in our construction right now, if you go out and go to the job site and say, where are you from? They'll say Walterboro, they'll say Orangeburg, they'll say Charleston, they'll say Savannah. And they come in and the prime puts them up in a hotel room for 5 days a week. And they stay in the hotel room and then they go back home on the weekend. Well, that costs money, not only for the prime, but also for the employee. So it's not a good thing. And that's one of the reasons why we are really trying to work for it. And Mr. Carlton Dallas is really working this very hard to try to get employees, trained, certified employees who are career and technical education program here in the county, stay in the county and work in the county. So that's the goal. And we have said that to the community. And frankly, TCL is working with us on this. Karen and ISD is working on this. But it's a goal that we have not forgotten about. And we're going to continue to try to expand opportunities for the people in this county. So we don't want to lose them. They graduate from our schools and they leave the county. So, pardon me, William's hand up, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, but some of the problems that makes it problematic is that also some of those people that are working these contracts, a lot of them are people who are on some of them who are from here, but just don't have some of the insurances things, so they can get them to work to do the actual labor, but they can't get the contract. So I think some of that stuff is it should be looked at to some degree too as well. And I understand that there's liabilities with it, but I think that it needs to be a deeper dive in terms of the layers of how it all works out. Because like I said, it's funny that they can't get the contracts, but they get in the work for the contractors, and all the contractors they subcontract the contractors, some of the people here. So I think it's a twofold, and it possibly needs to be looked at a little bit more. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, sir, thank you.
What is,
Any other?
okay, you said we need to look into this more. It's not gonna change because, the way the law, it's not gonna change because of the way the law is set up.
Yeah.
And I questioned many, representatives in Columbia, and they said, you know, that's it. Because the large contractors have complained that small contractors are getting a lot of work.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have.
Right.
You can get a government contract, federal government contract, because you get a state contract.
Right, right. That's a very, very good point. I heard the exact same thing from, I have a neighbor who's a facilities engineer at Paris Island, and he says he doesn't have that problem. He said he can go out, like Mr. Smith was saying, and reach out directly to the small businesses and bring them in without having, because they're not subject to state law on the base. So that's an excellent point, and that's something that we need to bring up to our state congressional delegation, that you're hurting the economy by having these rules that the feds don't follow. Why should we? Okay,
William stands. William.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I need to take it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to the next item on the agenda, which is the school resource officer. Who gets to talk about that?
Absolutely. Maybe the next one, if it's not too late. So, in case we come into a contractual conversation. So the next topic is school resource officers, and this item was requested by Mr. Smith. So before you is a listing prepared by our budget office for all of the SROs, the locations of SROs and district's cost for each location. And keep in mind, we deal with 4 different law enforcement agencies: the city of Beaufort, the town of Bluffton, the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department, and the town of Port Royal. Our contracts do call for 75% participation, since these officers are with the school district 10 months out of the year. Our contracts are a 75-25 split, with us paying 75% of the cost. And then we also have at town of Port Royal, we pay, 2 of the entities, 2 of the SROs are actually paid from state funds, and they're 100% paid. The money does not flow through the school district. It goes directly from, I believe, the Department of Administration at the state level directly to the law enforcement agency. So we just identify where the need is, and they fund that need. We do anticipate that we will be expanding that state opportunity. We did recently provide a listing of 9 additional locations where we do not currently have school resource officers, and there is a need. And we're hopeful that the state will pay more than just the 2, but hopefully as many as 9, because there is some indication that there was additional state funding that they would be able to provide more. So we put in a large request to the state level and have not yet heard back from them as to what funding is going to be available for next year. So with that, all of the total costs are that are district paid are $1,273,000 approximately. And the state pays about $186,000 for a total of about $1.5 million for school resource officers. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions or comments? Ms. Hay, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. Who oversees our SRO assignments? Is that operations?
That is Dave Grissom. He is in the Protective Services Division.
And operations takes care of that part.
That's what I was thinking, because I've been curious about getting or, tapping into veterans in the community to see if that would be something they would be interested in stepping up to fulfill. So I just wanted to know who to talk to. So that was my only question.
School resource officers are a specific certification level. And they do have specific training that they have to go through. And these are police officers. So they are going through an academy. It's my understanding that there is a local academy being created that could offer a number of additional SROs for this coming year. The amount of those number of those officers are unknown at this time, but it sounds like it has very good participation. And then for those schools that do not currently have SROs, we do have the security guards that are through Coastal Security Services as well.
And Coastal Security Services, the contractor, has employed many veterans.
Okay. Yes, I was just more or less curious because I know, it's in the heart of most veterans that they continue to want to serve their communities in some way, shape, or form. And honestly, as a parent, looking at this list of where the SROs are, which it's a fabulous breakdown, but realistically, this isn't enough. I mean, one officer for high school, I don't care what high school it is not enough. And I think most parents would feel that way. And I know this is a hurdle that most of the nation right now is trying to go over. So that's just why I asked those questions about where they came from and who allocates them and such.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Gordon, do you have any questions or comments?
I agree with the last part that you said. I love the fact that we have our SROs. I'm very appreciative of that in our schools. And I'm glad to see that Coastal Security is there. But safety, security for our teachers and our students, I think there's a price tag. I do know that we as a district, we paid at 75%. And I'm thinking about it, ask why we pay 75% and the county pays only 25%. But when you look at the $1.5 million that we're spending, that's really, what I'm saying? To me, that's not a cost factor for me. I'm just glad that we have it, but I would like to see some more SROs in our schools, at least two. Because you can't cover the front and the back. One person can't cover the front and the back of the school when it comes to safety.
This morning, I attended a meeting with the mayor of Fort Royal. And police protection and SRO protection was mentioned. The community was asking why they can't have more traffic police out there in the Fort Royal area. And they said, do you realize that the total number of vacancies for certified police officers in the county is over 70? And so even if we had the authorization for 2 SROs in the high schools, which I agree with you, we need it, there aren't any officers to hire.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why everybody's scrambling to try to deal with this. But that is a significant issue in the county. In fact, the mayor said it's nationally, statewide, that people don't want to be police officers. So we have an uphill battle with that. We've talked to PJ Tanner, the sheriff, about this, and he just puts his hands up and says, I just can't do it. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, without spending that large amount of money on law enforcement, I know that some counties have their own law enforcement divisions, and their own police forces. And I was just wondering, does South Carolina allow it? And then South Carolina, how much are they paying? Because from my understanding, SROs have a level, I think it's a level 3 of law enforcement, and not the other level. So they have to have less certification for being SROs. And with that being said, I think that we possibly can probably even cut some of our costs in half, or maybe spread the money a little wider in terms of that. And then also my next point is that I do know that some of the high schools, from my understanding, have a security officer and an SRO because of the size of the building. I think it's what my understanding was, that coastal security and the sheriff officers are at some of the schools. So I'm not sure which all schools that those services are being at, but 75% is a lot. And so, I know that we pay for half of those cars too. And I just want to know, to what degree do we get, what do we get more in return, just besides them being officers there? I think that's something that we should possibly even look further into as well.
Okay, Mr. Smith, I went through the transparency report and I looked at the coastal security thing. I didn't see any coastal security people in any of the schools, to include the high school. I mean, I saw them in our elementary schools. We didn't have coverage, but I did not see coastal security budgeted toward any of our high schools.
But they are not, their contract does not state that they are at that location unless we were to ask, and we have not at this time. And they have a list of locations that they're assigned to, or that they could be assigned to. If an SRO is not available in a high school, it's not that option at this time.
So we don't have an SRO over at May River High School. I mean, the security officer at May River High School directing traffic.
Oh, we have
There's crossing guards.
Crossing guards are different.
Coastal Security provides 2 different services for us. They provide armed security guards, and they also provide a crossing guard service as well. And that is in the Bluffton area and the Hilton Head area. And I'll have to see if there's an amendment for the May River, but those are the 2 that I recall off the top of my head. And that's a separate contract from our armed security guards.
Okay, well, we could. I think that should go up on this report too, so that we can know, because to me, that's also safety and security too. That's also about the same thing as an SROs when you are crossing guards as well, because they are armed, and they are in the area of the school. And if something happened, they are the ones who are going to the school and who are responding. And I've even been to a couple of meetings over at those schools in the national a couple of times, and we've had a setting officer, we've had the armed security there. So to me, that goes hand in hand. So I think that information should be brought to the forefront too, under the same entity.
Mr. Smith, how about we put that up into operations and talk about it there?
I have no problem with that. Thank you.
Okay.
The governor has proposed that it have SROs for 500 students. Now, I don't know whether that's where the funds is coming from. He proposed that.
Yeah. I saw that as well.
And the thing you have to look at, to go through the academy up in Columbia, it's like basic training. And right now, we don't find too many people want to get into law enforcement because they don't pay enough and it's long hours.
Specifically, and that's a good point. I believe that what the sheriff is doing is actually an academy that would be training folks locally. So we would be assisting with the training by providing a space for them to do the academy. And so we would partner with the sheriff's office to make that happen. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the timing is critical as to when we add SROs, because if we get ahead of the state providing funding, then we will be paying for it ourselves at 75% or maybe 100%, as opposed to the state paying 100%. So It's important that we see, and they will only fund SROs that are at schools that do not currently have an SRO. So you cannot add a second one at a high school. It has to be at one of the schools that currently has a security guard that we have, so that we can remove the security guard or reassign or whichever we plan to do. So it's really important that the timing is really critical. We have to be careful. We have funding in the budget to cover, make sure that we cover all schools as we are this year, either through a security guard or an SRO. But we do want to make sure we take full advantage of that state funding whenever we have that available, and as soon as that comes available to us.
Just real quickly, do you know off the top of your brilliant head, how many schools do we have presently do not have an SRO?
I believe it's 17 that they
That's not
have.
over our security guard or any body at all. Or are you
Well-
asking for SROs individually, or are you asking just for someone who's not at a school at all? We have any vacant schools that don't have armed security guard?
I'm asking that and also asking.
Okay, every school is covered by either as armed security guard or an SRO. 17 of our schools do not have SROs, they have security guards. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to custodial analysis. Ms. Crosby.
Yes. We have the one scenario here. Okay. So I cannot take credit for this work. This work was done by Ms. Hamlin. Others participated as well through contractual or overseas. Yes. There's another page. There are 13. Okay, so there are two
There's 4 pages.
separate pages, each one front and back. One is a 13.5 hour per hour scenario. The other is a $15 per hour. I think you have 13.50. I have 15. Online should be both.
Let me go. Online is everything, so let me.
Online is everything. Okay.
13 and a half.
So I'll go print these out.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I have the 13 on the back.
You know, when I was putting it together and divided, I'll go print it out.
I'm gonna start with the one with the blue up in the top right hand corner, which is 13.5 per hour, but the information is relatively the same, but we get to the bottom line.
Okay, we can see.
Yeah, so online, we're gonna start with the 13.5 per hour rate. Okay. So this is a cost analysis of custodial services, which are currently outsourced to HES. I'm not sure what HES stands for, but that is our current custodial vendor. Everyone else thinks is looking at me like, don't ask me that question.
It is HES.
I think the names of the individual owners of the company, actually. So this was bid out, this contract was bid out and is our
2021.
We're 3 years in our third year. Yes, third year, okay, of a 3-year contract. It's up for a renewal or an extension. So we have provided 3 years here. And basically what the task is to see if there would be any savings or additional costs if the district were to bring custodial services back in-house. And so so we did an analysis of what the current budget is, which is in the top section with each area. And we currently spend are projected to spend $7.1 million in the current school year, the projected 2023 column. That includes additional COVID cleaning, which was added, it's paid for with ESSER funds. And we do have a budget for floor cleaning, which is typically in the spring. If there's an extra waxing or cleaning that needs to be done in the spring, if funding allows. So $7.1 million, and there's projected 3% increases in that contract it's a consumer price index that's built into their contract that allows a 3% maximum price increase per year. So this assumes that we would continue and do the extra cleaning next school year, but then the following year, those funds would not be available at all. So if we move down into the green section, that is staffing. So there's approximately 200 custodial positions in the district, about a $9 million cost, 9.7, which includes supervisory staffing. So there are supervisors in the cluster areas that oversee each of several schools throughout each cluster. Then there are some direct costs, cleaning supplies that are needed. They pay for the cleaning supplies. They pay for all equipment like the buffers and all those things that they use. A floor cleaning, the waxing that's done. They pay for the technology they use an office here in the district office as their central area. So it's down in the wing with food service and transportation. So they share that wing of the building down by Right Choices. So their computers, their cell phones, their software are all covered by that department. And then there's some indirect costs associated with the, these are the costs that would be, if we were to self-operate, these are the costs that we would incur. I think I'm on the wrong track here. They're probably thinking, Tanya, get on the right track here. Okay, so if we were to self-operate, we're going to have internal payroll costs to manage, manage the 200 additional employees. AP and procurement, we're going to have additional purchases that are needed that we will be managing to buy the supplies and equipment that they will need. Human resources will be tasked with the onboarding and offboarding of employees, and then other administrative or operational costs. So those indirect costs would be about $230,000. So it is projected, and let me back up. As far as the staffing is concerned, these costs include benefits. So these are the benefits that the school district currently offers its employees. And those costs are rather significant as a percentage of the employee's salary when you have staff who are paid $28,000, $30,000. And if you don't mind scrolling down a little bit, Robin, on the second page or the back side of any of these documents, you'll see that we've done a breakdown of benefit costs, a scenario of a 13.5-hour employee for 2,080 hours per year, say for an example of $28,000 salary. If this person has family medical coverage, full family coverage, their benefit costs will equal about $25,000 a year. So that's retirement, Social Security, and all the insurances. So as you can see, the benefits of an employee paid at that level is almost 90%. So the total value is about 53% or $53,000, excuse me. So in all, the total projected cost at a rate of $13.50 an hour, which is currently about what the staff are currently making, would be approximately an additional cost to the district of $4.2 million beyond the $7 million that we are currently compensating. It would be about a 59% increase from where the budget that we're currently at. So I chose $13.50 an hour as one scenario, based on sort of where the wages currently are. And then we did another scenario of $15 an hour, which has the yellow in the top right-hand corner. That scenario is based on a rate of $15 an hour. And it looks as if they look exactly the same. So that scenario is not the right one. So I think we have I need to get some corrected information out to you. I think I have mixed up the versions that we were attempting to prepare for you.
I recall that it's over $5 million.
Yes,
I saw that, so.
yes, I think I have jumbled up the
Yeah.
versions.
Yeah.
We went through multiple
Yeah, right,
iterations of this
right.
document, I apologize. But it is more than 50% increase for just the 13,
So,
you know.
so the bottom line is the cost. This is the cost. We we're gonna talk about the benefit in operations. And Mr. Audie is gonna talk about the benefit of having the custodials work for the district rather than work for a contractor. That's an operational issue, and talk about that. That's the benefit. But now this tells us that the cost to take our custodians and take them away from the contractor and put them to work as district employees is between 4.2 million and about a little over 5.3 million, as I recall from seeing this before. That's the cost that we would have to come up with an additional $4 to $5 million in the budget. So, Mr. Campbell. what are
May
your
I
thoughts?
ask a question?
Go, let me ask Mr. Campbell and I'll get right to you. Okay?
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Mr. Campbell?
The extra $5 million, I just don't. I don't think the board will, majority board will go for that. That's just what I do. But if that's the will of the board,
Okay, Ms. Hay?
Sorry, trying to get my fingers to work to push the buttons to mute and unmute. Do we have a problem with our current custodians?
Let me explain what the issue is as far as, and we'll get into the operations piece, but just to give you some background. Our principals, if you would do our principals and ask them, would they rather have the custodians work for them and stay in their school rather than be contractors who come into their school and work in their school? And sometimes they come in and sometimes they get sent to other schools. And so they don't really have control over their custodial staff. And in the school, the custodians serve a huge function, more so than just cleaning up. Custodians often are the best friends of a lot of the students. So if you were to ask a principal, I've been asking principals now for about a year of what they think, without exception, they would rather have the custodians work for them as Beaufort County employees. So that's part of the benefit, and that's when we have to talk to Mr. Otting about, okay, but this is the management pieces, and also to Ms. Walton about the personnel actions that she would have to increasingly have to deal with. That's got to be mentioned in the benefits, so we know the total benefit. It may be great for the principals, but it might not be very great at all for the district staff and other issues, which I don't know yet.
No, that
Mr. Otting has to come in and talk about. Does that give you a little background?
yes, that makes perfect sense. I just wasn't sure if we had an issue with current, contractors and things in that realm. And I also wasn't sure that principals would want that added responsibility on their plate. So, but that does help. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Gordon?
Wow. I was all for the district having the custodians back under their control. I remember when that was the process. However, that 5 million extra, I'm thinking curriculum, I'm thinking teachers, I'm thinking staff members, I'm thinking, safety. I'm thinking of 2 SROs where we could put that 5 million. I'm like Mr. Campbell, I can't in my consciousness say yes to that because the added burden of the $5 million. I just have a problem with that. I do understand where the principals are coming from. To have that control back with their custodial staffing. But is that enough? You know, is that a big reason to spend $5 million as when we're gonna be losing ESSER funds later on? And basically, we're good. You know, I mean, they're serving the function as it is. We don't have any big problems, I don't think. If there was an auditing shows me otherwise, but I think we need to look at that $5 million being spent somewhere else.
Okay.
That would benefit everyone.
Mr. Smith,
I've heard what my colleagues have said on this situation. I'm listening to what Mrs. Crosby has said. I think there are other underlying
Mr. Smith,
issues that
can't understand you.
today that can also be a part of bringing this situation forward. I said that I've heard what my colleagues have said. I think that there are other underlying issues that I won't go into today. I'll wait until we have that conversation. And I think it's much more deeper than what was kind of, I think it's a little more deeper than what was said. I think there's some other variables that need to be put on the table. And in turn, I just think that we have to look at, you know, the same way how we said that we're not just that is priceless in terms of SRO. Custodians can do that the same way, because if those custodians didn't clean those buildings during COVID, and COVID was hanging around and no one was spraying those buildings out, then if you talk about we could have a lot more people could possibly get sick, or we could lose a lot more staff members if those custodians were not spraying and they were not cleaning those buildings out during COVID time. So I think it's more than one way to look at this in terms of the financial piece. So I'll just keep that the rest of the when we actually have that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and that's what we will talk about in great detail in Operations Committee, because we have to really explore the benefit and we have to look at the cost. I will tell you, in my opinion, $5 million, it's a balloon squeeze. If we squeeze the balloon to get the $5 million over the custodian, we're taking that $5 million from somebody else. And so if we do this, we have to figure out where we're going to cut elsewhere. And that's the bottom line. And which has the best benefit of doing that? What's the beneficial cost of cutting a program versus the beneficial cost of adding custodial control? So it's a very difficult issue, but we have a known number now. Benefits, it's hard to put a value on benefits, but that's something that the Operations Committee is going to have to wrangle with. And then we need to be able to get to the board by the 21st, when we meet to talk the budget. We probably are going to need to have a vote on this. And so Operations Committee will meet before the 21st. I anticipate this will take some time. Mr. Smith is on the Operations Committee. He will have a vote on what we recommend to the full board, and we go forward. But I thank you for doing the work and looking at what the facts are, and we'll go from there.
There's one fact we didn't mention, is that the people in these positions forced to pull out the 9% retirement every year. So there's a cost to the employee as well.
The retirement.
There's a mandatory 9% withholding for employees.
So that would come out of their.
That will come out of their paycheck as well.
So it's not $15 an hour necessarily, is what you take home.
Yes, correct. Yes, sir. Which now they're not currently required to since they're.
Of course, they don't have the retirement benefits too. I mean,
Correct.
that's their cost.
They have
That's
to-
their long-term cost.
Yes, they have to
Yeah.
do their return.
Right, okay, very, very good point, thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we talked, the last item on the agenda is the 23-24 budget update.
Certainly. I don't have any documents for you today. I just wanted to sort of give you an idea of where we were in the process. So just last week, we met with Dr. Rodriguez for the first time, showed him the big picture of the budget. We did some analysis. He indicated some preferences on, different different categories of interest to him, particularly of concerns he may want to address in the budget. And so we were able to make some adjustments in the budget, reallocate the resources. Basically, the budget's going to be, as you say, a certain amount. And we're reallocating them within the budget. So when one area increases, we need to find savings in another area to help compensate for it. So we made those adjustments. We brought that back and had a conversation with him yesterday, I believe. Again, the days running together. And we made some final, we had some more discussions and we had some more revisions to it. So we are going into the break with a good idea of where the superintendent's recommendation will be. However, there are still some outlying factors. The state, the governor and the state superintendent in the original budget discussions, in their original budget proposals to the legislature, indicated, both versions indicated that there would be a $2,500 teacher retention bonus in their proposal. And so as of yet, we have seen no funding for that proposal. So that bonus is not currently in our budget because we're told that those come from non-recurring funds at the state level. So that is an important piece of information that we need in order to build the whole compensation package for teacher salaries. And that will help us determine how much we will be able to increase that salary level. So that is a very critical component. If you are talking to your legislators, you're at the state level, I encourage you to ask that question. Are we getting the retention bonus? Is that coming from a rainy day fund at the state level? Dr. Rodriguez is meeting with someone, a colleague that has ties to the legislature. I think he's having a conversation this evening or tomorrow, and we'll be asking those same questions. I will be asking them of my counterparts, because that's a really critical piece as we move forward. And that will make that teacher salary component is one of the largest budget items in this budget, the largest increases in this budget. And that decision could fluctuate where that funding comes from. So we are moving forward. We're going to prepare the presentations over the break, and so that we're ready to present to the board by the 21st. But this is a moving target. We are every day learning more information. And so as we move through the process, the budget can change some. So we want to be careful about how we communicate and not, to overpromise and underdeliver. We certainly don't want to do that. And so just know that we are making very good progress, and our team, although we'll be working remotely next week, we'll still be working on this budget to get ready for the following week's presentation. So.
Have you got from Dr. Rodriguez a number,
A number.
a total operation budget?
No, we don't have a final number. No,
You
we have a
you
couple of
you have a
options.
range.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're going to be in the increasing at least $20 million
Okay.
from the previous year. So we were at 298. We're going to be at least $20 million increase, and about 10 million additional funds will come from the state.
Okay, and millage?
we're going to be in the 4 point something range.
Okay.
We're going to be needing an additional tax increase, no matter what decision is made with the teacher salary increase. That's the main component we're waiting on to see what the state is going to do. We're going to need a tax increase because the funding for all of the mandates is not sufficient from the state revenues that we've received. Mhm.
And
there is some growth.
And,
We are
yeah,
getting
what's
very.
what's our available millage growth?
We're projecting that the mill value will be in the $1.5 million per mill range.
Okay,
So at 120, we're projecting that would be we're currently at 125.6 mills.
right,
If we were to add, say, 4 mills, we'll be 140,
130.
139, 120.6 mills. And that would generate, the additional millage would generate additional $5 or $6 million.
Okay.
So we'll cover about $10 million extra in state revenue, about $5 million in growth of the current mill value, and another $5 or $6 million with a millage increase. So that makes up the $20 million. That's where we're going.
And then we of course have the reassessment.
Reassessment should be millage neutral, and that is our goal.
Okay,
So it should have no effect on the dollar amount that we collect. We should receive everything that we budget for. And so my role is to keep in constant contact with this county officials. And I have some past projections of the millage calculations for the last 2 reassessments. So I'm going to be in contact with our state, my counterpart at the county, and sharing the information we have and what the end result was after those calculations, and see if I can lend some support. And then make contact to make sure that I have able to take a look at things before they're finalized.
okay, and when are you and I going to talk to the auditor?
The not yet implemented auditor, auditor-elect. Whenever you would like to do that, you can arrange a
Well,
time.
my time is much more flexible than yours, but please do not get that.
Yes.
We need to have that conversation. Well, if we can before the 21st. Okay, so, if you tell me,
Okay,
okay,
let me,
because we need, at the 21st, we need to have a view from the treasurer and a view from the auditor about millage and reassessment. And I know it's not going to be cast in concrete, but we at least have to appraise the full board of those 2 offices and the issue involved. We don't want any surprises, and we also want it to also tell us what we need to do politically in that arena. Okay. Great. Great.
Fine.
You have any questions? No. Ms. Hay, do you have any questions?
I do not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon, do you have any questions or comments?
I'm good, and as always, thank you, ladies. Yeah.
Mr. Smith, do you have any questions or comments?
No, not at this time. Not at this time. I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Last item on the agenda is future topics. Ms. Crosby, do you have anything for future topic that you want to talk about?
yes, sir.
Okay.
First, the item, I have standard monthly items, but I also will have an E-rate category 1 authorization. Ms. Hamlin had it ready for me, and I missed this time, and I missed the summary. Couldn't find the summary in my mistake. So we will bring that the next meeting. That will still allow us to meet our deadlines regarding applications. I think it's probably perhaps a good idea to begin a conversation on the ACE budget.
Yes.
It appears, well, and to update this committee, which two of you were on.
Yep.
On the ACE board,
Yep.
but it
Yep.
might be a good idea to begin the discussion here and then
Yes,
update the
Yes.
board
yes.
in the next meeting, and I'll be talking a little about it on the 21st as well.
Good.
But I think, we won't have another board meeting until then, so, but at least that gives you a preview of what the budget looked like, which you saw at the last meeting, but I think it's worthy of beginning that conversation, and talking about long-term, a little, financially, how that affects long-term financing for ACE. And then we have another topic regarding the payroll cycle for the next school year, the 23-24 school year. Without going into too much detail, we
I anticipated that.
yes, we have an issue every 10 years.
Yes,
When, as the calendar moves
Yes.
one day off, say birthday is not on Friday every year, it's on
Yeah.
Thursday next year and Monday
Yeah.
the next year, and
Yeah.
or, one day earlier every, so does the paycheck cycle. And so the paycheck cycle on our 10 and 11-month employees, we begin over a 10-year period, it moves back 10 to 12 days, and then you begin paying people before they ever start work.
Yep.
So we have to address that issue. We have a plan to do that. It's consistent with the last two times that I've experienced it over the years. So we have, but we need to start that conversation because that will need to occur in the 23-24 school year, and we need to address it and not push it aside any longer as I have done. But it will, we will make sure that we are very clear about
Yeah.
the communication.
Yep. Oh, that's great, thank you. Mr. Campbell, do you have any future topics?
No, I don't.
Miss Hay, do you have any future topics?
I cannot think of any.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Chloe. Did you?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Smith, do you have any future topics?
It's gone.
He's gone? Yeah, looks like he's gone.
He's gone.
Okay, I don't have, you blew my mind with the payroll.
The next meeting,
The next meeting,
I have it for May the 11th. Is that fine?
I lost train of thought after that payroll topic.
It will be putting us back on schedule. It's the second Thursday.
May the 11th. Works for me.
Works for me.
It's fine.
Good.
Is there any opportunity to have the meetings earlier in the day?
For finance, for this group, it can be.
I would love that. I
Thanks.
have young children
What
and
time?
meeting later in the day is challenging. Anytime 9 a.m. on, I can be completely child-free. So like 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I always know that I will be without a 3-year-old.
Mr. Campbell is tied up in the mornings till 1 p.m. Is there any, would 1 p.m. help?
Or if there's an option to do a 2:30, my other is usually down for a nap at that time, so I know I can be fully
2:30?
present.
That work for you?
2:30.
It's fine with me.
Okay, that would be amazing.
Look at 2:30.
So we'll schedule the next meeting on May the 11th and 2:30. And would that work for you if we say the second Thursday of the month around 2:30?
Yes. Yep, that's amazing. Thank you for working with me on that.
Yes.
Dynamite.
Second Thursday and around
I think the
2:30.
staff would be quite happy with that.
I think they might be.
I miss a lot of ball games sometimes, so
Yeah.
this that'll work.
Yes, well, that's where I just had to move to the soccer field. So,
Great.
so thank you.
Well,
All
thank,
right.
the staff thanks you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, staff.